The morning of my brother's wedding rehearsal dinner, I spent 45 minutes helping my 6-year-old daughter Emma pick out which barrettes to wear in her hair. She had narrowed it down to two options, the small white daisies or the tiny silver stars. She held one in each hand, standing in front of the bathroom mirror with the gravity of someone making a decision that genuinely mattered, which, to her, it did. She was going to be the flower girl. She had known this for 4 months. She had practiced walking slowly down the hallway of our apartment so many times that there was a faint scuff mark on the baseboard where she turned around at the end. She chose the daisies. I told her they were perfect. She believed me completely, the way children believe you when they have no reason not to yet. My husband Derek loaded the car while I finished getting ready. He was the kind of person who never made anything harder than it needed to be. He had ironed a shirt the night before, set out Emma's shoes by the door, and bought a card for my brother Ryan and his fiancée Madison without being asked. While I stood in the kitchen second-guessing whether to bring a hostess gift to a dinner I had technically helped plan, Derek put his hand on the small of my back and said, "You already did enough. Let's just go." We drove 40 minutes to the Hargrove Inn, the venue Madison's family had rented for the weekend. It sat at the edge of a lake, white-columned and quietly expensive, the kind of place that made you feel like you should lower your voice when you walked in. Emma pressed her face against the car window the whole drive, watching the highway become smaller roads, become the long private lane lined with oak trees. "Is Uncle Ryan going to be happy when he sees me?" she asked. "Very happy," I said. "Is he going to see my barrettes?" "Definitely the barrettes." She sat back, satisfied. I watched her in the rearview mirror, her small face composed and ready, and felt the particular warmth that comes from watching your child be excited about something pure. She didn't know about any of the complicated things. She just knew she had a job to do and she had practiced and she was ready. That was her entire world right now, and it was a good one. My phone buzzed as Derek pulled into the parking area near the inn's side entrance. I looked at the screen. A text from my mother. "Hey, can you come around to the garden entrance instead of the front? I need to talk to you before you come in. Don't bring Emma yet. Have Derek wait with her." I read it twice. Then I read it again. "Everything okay?" Derek asked. "My mom wants to talk to me outside first. Alone." He looked at me the way he looked at things that didn't add up. Quiet, careful. "Okay." I told Emma I was going to say hi to Grandma and I'd be right back, and that she should stay with Daddy and show him the daisies again because he hadn't seen them properly yet. This occupied her completely. I walked around the side of the building to the garden entrance, where a stone path curved between rose bushes that were just starting to come into bloom. My mother was waiting near a wrought iron bench. She was wearing the blue dress she'd bought for the weekend, her hair done, her hands clasped in front of her in the particular way she held them when she was managing something. "Hi," I said. "What's going on?" She exhaled. "I just wanted to talk to you first so it didn't catch you off guard inside." "So talk." She looked past me briefly, toward the parking area, as if checking that Derek and Emma were still there. Madison's younger sister has a daughter, Brooke. She's 5. And Madison asked, a few weeks ago actually, if Brooke could be the flower girl instead, because she and Emma don't know each other, and she wanted it to feel cohesive and... Mom. My voice came out flat. Emma has been practicing for 4 months. I know. She's wearing the dress. She's wearing the barrettes. She talked about this every single day for 4 months. I know, honey. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have called you sooner. Ryan should have called you sooner. But Madison felt awkward about it, and it just kept getting pushed back, and she's 6. Something was tightening in my chest, something that was trying to become anger but hadn't finished the transformation yet. She's a 6-year-old who practiced walking slowly down a hallway for 4 months so she wouldn't mess up. My mother looked at me with an expression that was not guilt exactly. It was something closer to resolution, the look of someone who has already made peace with the decision and is now just waiting for you to catch up. "It's Madison's wedding," she said. "It's her day. And she wants the wedding party to feel like her family." Something landed in my chest at that word. Her family. As if Emma wasn't Ryan's family. As if I wasn't Ryan's family. "And we're what exactly?" I asked. "Sarah." Her voice shifted into the register she used when she wanted me to stop being difficult. "I need you to be gracious about this. Ryan is stressed, Madison is stressed, and tonight just needs to go smoothly. The last thing anyone needs is what?" She looked at me steadily. "You making this harder than it needs to be." I stood there for a moment in the garden with the rose bushes coming into bloom and the faint sound of music starting up inside, and I made myself breathe. 1 full breath in, 1 full breath out. "Okay," I said. "Okay? I need a minute before I come in." She reached toward my arm. I stepped back, just slightly, I'll come in on my own, I said. Give me a minute. She nodded, looked at me for a moment longer, as if she might say something else, then turned and went back inside through the garden door. I stood there alone. The music from inside drifted over the roof, something soft and string-heavy, and the lake at the far edge of the property caught the last of the afternoon light, and I thought about Emma in the parking lot, with her daisy barrettes and her carefully practiced slow walk, and I pressed my fingers against my sternum and breathed. Then I walked back around the building to Derek. He was crouched down next to Emma, pointing at something in the gravel, probably a bug. She was crouched beside him with the same posture, identically absorbed. When they heard me coming, they both looked up. Derek read my face in about half a second. He said easily, can you count how many white rocks you can find right here? I bet there are at least 10. She immediately started counting. He stood and walked 2 steps toward me, lowering his voice. What happened? They replaced her. The words felt strange in my mouth. Madison's niece is the flower girl now. They decided weeks ago, apparently, and just didn't tell us. Derek was quiet for a moment, a very particular kind of quiet that I recognized. How do you want to handle it? He asked. I looked at Emma, who had found 6 white rocks and was announcing each one with satisfaction. I have to tell her, I said. And then, I don't know if I can sit in there tonight, and you don't have to decide right now. 7, Emma announced. Good one, Derek called back. I crouched down next to my daughter. She found an 8th rock and held it up for my inspection. I looked at it seriously. That's an excellent rock, I said. It's very white, she agreed. I took both her hands in mine. She looked at me, curious about the shift. Hey, Bug, I have to tell you something, and it's a little bit of a sad thing, but we're gonna be totally fine. Okay? She studied my face with an attention that always surprised me. Okay. The flower girl job changed a little bit. There's another little girl who's going to carry the flowers at Uncle Ryan's wedding. Emma looked at me. She didn't say anything for a moment. Did I do it wrong? She asked. The walking? My throat tightened so fast I almost didn't catch it. No, you did it perfectly. This has nothing to do with your walking or anything you did. The other little girl is part of Madison's family, and they decided they wanted someone from her family to do it. It has nothing to do with you. She considered this. So I don't get to carry the basket? Not this time, Bug. She looked down at her shoes. The small white daisies in her hair caught the light. Can I still go to the party? Yes. Can I still wear the dress? Absolutely. She nodded with the particular resilience of 6-year-olds who have not yet learned that the correct response to disappointment is to perform larger feelings. Okay, she said. Then, is there food? Lots of food. Okay. She stood up and looked at Derek. I found 9 rocks, but I think there might be more. Derek caught my eye over her head. Something in his expression was doing what it always did in hard moments, holding steady so I didn't have to hold everything alone. We went inside. The rehearsal dinner was set up in the inn's main dining room. Long tables draped in cream linen, candles, garden flowers in low vases, the warm noise of maybe 30 people already gathered and drinking wine. Ryan sighed, Madison sighed, the wedding party mixed together. I saw my brother across the room almost immediately. He was laughing at something, his arm around Madison's waist, and he looked, as people do before their weddings, like a slightly better-lit version of himself. He didn't see me come in. Madison did. She was standing with a group of women near the far window, a glass of champagne in her hand, and when her eyes landed on me, something moved across her face. Not guilt, exactly. Not the discomfort of someone who knows they did something they shouldn't have. More like the mild annoyance of someone who had hoped a thing was handled and now sees that it is standing in their dining room in a yellow dress. A small girl I didn't recognize broke away from Madison's group and ran toward a woman near the door. She was wearing a white dress with a pale pink sash. She had a small wicker basket already in her hands, looped over one arm. Emma saw it too. She didn't say anything. She just looked at the basket for a moment, then looked up at me, then looked back at the basket. I watched her understand the whole situation in the particular wordless way children process things they've been given a partial explanation for. She reached up and found my hand. I held it. We found our seats. My mother was at the far end of our table, next to my father, who had been quiet and peripheral all evening in the way he often was at large family events, present but slightly removed, observing things from a comfortable distance. He raised his hand when he saw me. I raised mine back. Dinner moved the way rehearsal dinners move, in waves of toasts and conversation and plates being cleared and refilled. My sister-in-law-to-be made a speech that was charming and well-crafted. My brother made a speech that was genuine and a little rambling and got better as it went. Emma ate her chicken and then ate most of Derek's bread roll and told the elderly couple next to us an elaborate story about a frog she had once seen in our backyard. She did not mention the flower basket. She did not cry. She was 6 and she was managing something that grown adults would have made a scene over, and she was managing it by telling a couple she had never met about a frog. I watched her and held it together. I was still holding it together when I excused myself after the main course and went to the restroom and stood at the sink with the water running and pressed my wet hands against my face. Not crying, just standing. Just needing one room where I wasn't performing fine. I had paid for that dress. I had driven to 3 different stores before I found the right one. The one Emma had spun in circles in front of the fitting room mirror and declared perfect. I had bought the barrettes. I had practiced the walk with her, standing at one end of our hallway and crouching down while she walked toward me, slow and careful and beaming. 4 months of her, looking forward to this. 4 months of this is my job and I'm going to do it well. And my brother had not called me. He had let my mother make a phone call in a garden while Emma counted rocks in a parking lot. I dried my hands and looked at myself in the mirror for a moment. Then I went back out. My phone vibrated as I crossed the lobby. I assumed it was Derek checking on me. I looked at the screen. My father. I stopped walking. My father did not text during family events. My father did not text in general. I had once watched him spend 6 minutes typing the word okay with one finger. The message said, "Come find me, outside on the east porch. Now please." I stood in the lobby of the Hargrove Inn looking at those words for a long moment. The music drifted from the dining room. Someone laughed loudly, a warm crowd laugh. I turned and walked toward the east porch. My father was standing at the railing, looking out at the lake. He had his jacket on even though it wasn't cold, the way men of his generation dressed for things. He heard me come out and turned. "Hi, Dad." "Hi." He looked at me for a moment in the particular way he had of looking at things he wanted to understand fully before he spoke about them. "Your mother told me about the flower girl." "She told me in the garden. Before dinner?" "She told me just now." Something moved across his face, during the appetizers, like it was a scheduling update. I didn't say anything. "Ryan knew," my father said. "He knew for at least 3 weeks. He asked your mother to handle the conversation because, and I'm quoting the text I just read on your mother's phone, Sarah will make it a whole thing and I can't deal with that right now on top of everything else." The lake was still. The sun was finishing its descent behind the tree line, painting everything gold and long-shadowed. Inside, someone had started a new toast. I said, "He called me a thing." "Yes." "His daughter. I'm a thing he can't deal with." My father turned back toward the lake. He put both hands on the railing and he was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was measured in the way of someone who has been choosing their words carefully for a long time and has decided to stop. "Your brother," he said, "has had every benefit of every doubt for 30 years. Every time he dropped the ball, there was someone to pick it up. Every time something was hard, someone made it easier. I have been one of those people." He paused. "I told myself that's what you do for your children. You make things easier." The music inside shifted to something slower. "But he texted your mother this afternoon to have her manage you. Like you are a situation to be managed. And Emma is in there in a dress she practiced for 4 months, and there's another child carrying the basket." He turned to look at me. "And I sat through the appetizers and I didn't say anything because it's Ryan's night and Madison's night, and that's what I've always told myself." "Dad, I have something to tell you," he said, "and I'm telling you out here because I wanted you to know before it happened inside." He reached into his jacket pocket and took out his phone. He didn't hand it to me, he just held it. 6 weeks ago, your grandmother's estate was finally settled. There was some property. A piece of land in Vermont she had for 30 years, the one we took you kids to in the summers. She left it to me, and I was going to split it equally between you and Ryan. I remembered that land. I remembered a rickety dock over a cold lake and fireflies in the field behind the main cabin, and Ryan and I catching them in mason jars the summer I was 9. "I changed the documentation last week," my father said. "Before tonight, it has nothing to do with the flower girl. I want to be clear. It has to do with a pattern I have been watching and not naming for a long time." He finally put the phone back in his pocket. "But tonight settled something for me. Your brother is 31 years old, and his first instinct when something is uncomfortable is to have someone else handle it, and the someone else is always you. He doesn't think of it that way." "I know he doesn't. That's the problem." He looked at me steadily. "The land goes to you. I wanted you to know." I stood there on the east porch of the Hargrove Inn, with the lake going dark in front of me, and my father beside me, and the sound of my brother's rehearsal dinner on the other side of the wall. And I felt something that was not triumph and not relief and was not exactly grief either, but was some complicated middle place between all of them. Okay, I finally said. There's one more thing. He reached back into his jacket pocket, this time taking out something smaller, a velvet pouch, dark green, drawstring tied. He held it out to me. I took it. I pulled the drawstring open and tipped the contents into my palm. A bracelet. Gold chain, thin and delicate, with a small oval locket that I recognized immediately. My grandmother had worn it every day for as long as I could remember. When I was small, I had thought it contained a picture of my grandfather. When I was older, I had looked and found a small folded piece of paper with a verse from Psalms written in her handwriting. Your mother gave that to Ryan's fiancé, my father said quietly. As a welcome to the family gift, 3 months ago. She said your grandmother would have wanted Madison to have it. I looked at the bracelet in my palm. The gold caught the last of the light. She gave it to Madison, I repeated. Without asking you, without mentioning it. I found out from Ryan by accident last week. He paused. I asked Madison to return it tonight. I told her the gift was made in error, that the bracelet had a designated recipient and my wife had not had the authority to give it away. Madison was gracious about it. The bracelet came back to me this afternoon. I closed my fingers around it. Dad, I said, and my voice did something unexpected, something I hadn't given it permission to do. I know, he said. He put his hand on my shoulder. Not a pat, just a steady weight. I know. We stood there for a moment. I'd like to go back inside, he said, and say something. Dad, you don't need to. I know I don't need to. He looked at me, but I'm going to. And I wanted you beside me when I did. I thought about Emma at the table describing the frog to strangers. I thought about the scuff mark on our hallway baseboard. I thought about 3 stores and the right dress, and 4 months of practicing something that had been taken away in a garden while she counted rocks. Okay, I said. He nodded once and opened the porch door, and I followed him inside. The dining room was mid-conversation, the warm noise of a crowd between courses. A few people looked up when we came in. My father moved to a spot near the head of the table where Ryan and Madison were seated, and he waited. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't tap a glass. He simply stood there with a particular stillness until the conversations nearest him slowed, and then stopped, and then the ones beyond those. And then the room was quiet, in the way rooms get quiet when someone has something to say that the air can feel before the words arrive. Ryan saw me standing behind our father and his expression shifted. Not guilt, more like calculation, the face of someone rapidly assessing a situation. Dad? He said, light questioning. I'd like to say something, my father said. His voice was even, conversational, almost. And I want to say it here because this family has a habit of having the important conversations in private so they can be managed, and I've decided I'm not interested in that approach anymore. Madison set her champagne glass down very carefully. My daughter drove 40 minutes tonight, my father said. Her daughter wore a dress she'd been excited about for 4 months. They arrived and were taken aside before they came in the front door and told, without warning, that the flower girl role had been given to someone else. He paused. No one called her. No one gave her the chance to prepare Emma for that. Because Ryan texted his mother this afternoon and asked her to handle it because he didn't want to deal with the conversation himself. The room was the particular kind of quiet that means no one is looking directly at the person they most want to look at. I love my son, my father said. I want this weekend to be meaningful for him. And I am saying this here, now, in front of his friends and his fiance's family because I want it to be said clearly, the way my daughter was treated tonight was wrong. Emma is Ryan's niece. She is this family, and she deserved a phone call. Ryan's jaw had tightened. Madison was looking at the table. I'm not asking for the evening to stop, my father continued. I'm not asking anyone to do anything different tonight. I'm saying what should have been said before anyone sat down. I'm saying it because it's true, and because I have been in the habit of waiting until it's more convenient to say true things, and I am tired of that habit. He looked at Ryan for a moment. Ryan looked back. I love you, my father said. That's why I'm saying it. He stepped back. The room held its breath for 1 more second, and then conversation began to return to itself, slowly, the way water resettles after something is dropped into it. My mother appeared at my father's elbow, her voice low and tight. Robert. This was not the moment. I know you believe that, he said. And he moved away from her and came to stand beside me, and his expression was exhausted and resolved in equal measure, the face of someone who has set something down that was heavy for a long time. Thank you, I said. My voice was not entirely steady. Long overdue, he said. Derek appeared from somewhere behind me with Emma on his hip. She had her arms looped around his neck and was watching my father with the particular attention children give to adults who are behaving unexpectedly. Grandpa said something, Emma observed. He did, Derek said. Was it a toast? She asked. My father held out his arms and she went to him without hesitation, the way she always did, immediately and completely. And he held her the way he had held me when I was small, one hand at her back and one at the back of her head, and she patted his shoulder in a way that was somehow both casual and comforting. I like your barrettes, he told her. They're daisies, she said. I know. Your grandmother used to grow them in the yard. Emma leaned back to look at him. I have a flower basket at home, she told him, with the particular gravity of someone sharing important information. I've been practicing. I know, he said. I heard you were very good. I was, she agreed. He laughed. A real one. Derek found my hand in the quiet between the ongoing sounds of the dinner resuming around us, and he held it without saying anything, and that was everything. Ryan came to find me before dessert. He crossed the room and I watched him come, and I made myself stay still. I should have called you, he said. He said it quietly, without the audience, without performance. I should have called you the day it changed, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. I looked at him for a moment. My younger brother, the one my parents had always said was more sensitive, more social, needed more careful handling. The one for whom things had been arranged, quietly and consistently, for 30 years. Yeah, I said, you should have. He looked at Emma, who was now sitting back in her chair across the table, carefully and methodically eating a dinner roll. She doing okay? She's 6, I said. She's better at disappointment than most adults I know. He winced slightly. I'll figure out a way to make it up to her, he said. She could come up to the front during the ceremony, maybe. Walk with the bridal party at the start. Talk to Madison about it, I said. If she's comfortable with it, yes. If not, don't promise Emma something that's going to get pulled again. He nodded. He looked like he might say something else. Then he didn't, and went back across the room. We left before the dancing started. Emma had eaten 2 rolls and a full plate of pasta and a piece of the dessert that turned out to be a lemon tart. And she was in the particular loose, sleepy state of a child who has had an eventful day and is beginning to process it horizontally. Derek buckled her into her car seat while I said goodbye to my father in the inn's front hall. He hugged me, which he did not do often, and the hug was longer than as usual. I'll call this week, he said. I'll pick up, I said. He smiled, a small, tired, real smile. On the drive home, Emma made it 11 minutes before she fell asleep with her head at an angle that looked deeply uncomfortable but that she seemed entirely at peace with. Derek drove and I sat in the passenger seat with the velvet pouch in my lap, my fingers finding the thin chain of my grandmother's bracelet through the fabric. Long night, Derek said. Long night. He was quiet for a moment. Your dad did a good thing in there. Yeah, I said. He did. You okay? I turned the velvet pouch over in my hands. I thought about my father standing still until the room went quiet. I thought about Emma patting his shoulder. I thought about the dock in Vermont and mason jars full of fireflies and cold lake water and Ryan and I being small enough that all of it was still simple. I think so, I said. I will be. He found my hand on the console. We drove the rest of the way home in the dark, Emma asleep in the back, the bracelet in my lap, the road unrolling ahead of us, steady and quiet. I put the bracelet on for the first time on a Tuesday 2 weeks later. Not for anything, not for a reason. I clipped the small clasp at my wrist while Emma ate cereal at the kitchen table, and the morning light came in through the window the way it does in early summer, long and unhurried. Emma looked up from her bowl and pointed her spoon at my wrist. Pretty? It was your great-grandmother's, I said. She considered this with great seriousness, then went back to her cereal. Ryan came through for Emma in the end. At the ceremony, Madison's wedding coordinator brought Emma up to walk with the bridal party at the start of the processional, her small hands holding a single white peony. Madison had picked it out herself and tied it with a ribbon that matched Emma's dress. It wasn't the flower basket. It wasn't 4 months of practice. But Emma held that peony like it was the most important flower in the building, walked slowly and carefully and exactly right, and when she reached the front and found us in the 3rd row, her face broke into the widest, most uncomplicated smile I had ever seen. My father clapped. Not politely, genuinely. Ryan and I have been working at it, slowly. He called 3 weeks after the wedding, and the call was longer than our calls have been in years, and some of it was uncomfortable, and he stayed on the line anyway. We are not what we should have been all along, but maybe we are what we are now, which is 2 people trying to be honest with each other after a long time of being managed instead. My mother is harder. She believes she handled things correctly, and I do not think that belief will change entirely. We have found a version of Sunday dinners that works, which is to say a version that holds if no one pushes too hard on the places that haven't healed. It is not ideal. It is what we have. My father calls every week Thursdays, just after 6. He and Emma have a running conversation about a cardinal that has been visiting the feeder in his backyard. Emma has named it Gerald. My father sends her pictures. He sent her a whole page about cardinals from a bird book last week, photocopied and mailed in an envelope with her name on the front. She keeps it on her nightstand. The bracelet goes on most mornings now, not all, but most. Some days, Emma asks to look at the locket, and I open it for her, and she looks at the small folded paper inside, the verse in my grandmother's handwriting, and she asks me to read it. I do. She doesn't always understand the words, but she listens like she does. That's enough. For right now, that's more than enough.